Iran has been trying to. They would love I think they want an excuse for an escalation. They like to go right up. If they really wanted a full-on escalation directly with the United States, they wouldn't use Hezbollah and the Houthis to do it. So they want the U.S. to be, or others, Saudi friendly countries, to be the antagonists. And so you've had a lot of shipping in the Red Sea. We were talking about this a little earlier. Shipping in the Red Sea, where you've got, this is oil and gas. Oil and gas, and not just that. There's just how much goes through. I think we talked about this before. It's like one of the most important routes of transportation and shipping that exists. It's super important. So when you go through the Red Sea, you have Egypt, you have Sudan, you have a couple of other countries going. You also have Saudi Arabia, and then going down towards the Horn of Africa, where you've got Somalia, Ethiopia, it opens out into the Gulf of Aden, and right there on the corner you have Yemen. And where a lot of people in Gen X first learned all about Yemen because of Friends, because Chandler Bing was going to go there to get away from Janice, remember? And at one portion of that corner of Yemen there, going from the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, is Houthi controlled. And Yemen has been having a civil war. And so the argument, as I was explaining in the first hour, is that, well, Israel has a blockade on aid going into Gaza, which, sidebar, no, they didn't. In fact, they were sending aid for decades into Gaza themselves. Stop acting like they, who are defending themselves, are the aggressors against the terrorist entity. And so they're saying, oh, because of that, we're going to block anyone from leaving. Except when you have two countries bordering a waterway, it's like, imagine that, the Rio Grande is a lot bigger than it is. But you have the United States on one side and Mexico on the other side. The whole Rio is not the United States's, nor is it Mexico's. You still have to negotiate a shared use of this waterway. And so the same thing is said in this area. It's not just all of theirs. It goes right up against, there's like a couple of countries that it goes right up against. I know that, it's like Sudan, and then there are a couple of others. They don't control that entirely. And so the argument from the left is that, well, they're doing that as in response. So you can't, Yemen didn't kill anyone. Well, the Houthi controlled area, the Houthis definitely have. And they've tried to kill a lot of our soldiers. There have been, and these are all Iran-backed terrorist entities. So the response, it is Barbary Pirates 2.0, is what I was saying. Because, Barbary Pirates, you had, how many hundreds of Americans did they capture before we sent some emissaries over there, and then finally we're like, you know what, we're going to kick your backside. We're done. And then that's what happened. He sent, Thomas Jefferson sent like a whole fleet over there. So they're kind of like Barbary Pirates 2.0, in that they're attacking all these merchant vessels and, et cetera. And it does, I can be prevailed upon to accept, because there is some logic and there is some fact to this, that it is in part America's interest to have that free and open route. Because it does affect energy. It affects a lot. And you don't want to have a destabilized world economy or a destabilized world because of an energy crisis brought on by a blockade through the top route for energy, for oil and tankers and everything else. You don't want to have to deal with that. So that is kind of like what we're dealing with. It's Barbary 2.0. So I do see that. However, the War Powers resolution, and we talked about this a little earlier, it can be used in instances of like repelling or repelling a threat or defensively. And it does now. It's not, creating a new sweeping power for the President of the United States. It doesn't give him the authority to wage war singularly. It doesn't give him the authority to declare war. It doesn't. If it is, it's only, I mean, really, it only comes into play during national emergencies and things of that nature. But it is a statutory authorization. He cannot take unilateral offensive action without the input of Congress, right? And so the way that it was described is because so many of our troops have been targeted, sailors have been targeted, and other merchant vessels have been targeted, this is a defensive response. But even then, the president has 48 hours to convene with Congress, and in anything else done after that, Congress has to have approval. I mean, maybe they're going to explain here in a little bit whether or not that's happening. But it's a check against the president going too far singularly and not introduce military action as an offense. That's the way that it is at least legally interpreted. So the authorized use of military force outside of repelling a threat or an immediate defensive maneuver like this has to have approval of Congress. And I think that's what a lot of people are wondering about this is where do we go after this? Because Iran would like escalation, and I think that there has to be serious enough of a threat for the U.S. to make a defensive maneuver like this. Here's my other big thing, though. Why are we even having this conversation when this is literally right by Saudi? This is on their border. These are in their shared waterways. We've talked about normalizing relationships with Middle Eastern countries and Israel. But where's the Arab League and why? I don't want to be used as a pawn for the Saudis to go and fight their war against Iran. And I feel like that's a perfectly justifiable, reasonable thing to say. So much of this is just the Saudis versus Iran. So why is it U.S. and U.K.? Where are Saudi? I mean, Kane, have you seen that? I haven't seen. I mean, where is Arab League forces? Where's all this? I mean, my gosh. Egyptian. You're telling me that those countries have less of a stake in this than we do? That's where all of their stuff goes out. You're telling me that they have less interest in this than we do? I mean, they're oil-rich nations. You're telling me that they're broke and they can't somehow handle defense? I mean, this is why I have these questions, because shouldn't it be their responsibility first? And then if they need help, they reach out. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is it always, oh, well, United States, what are you going to do? UK, what are you going to do? Why is it always that? I don't know, but I am fascinated that the people who were livid over the Soleimani strike are defending this. Now, I want to make, some people are, I think, unjustly criticizing Thomas Massie because Thomas Massie was asking about legal authority for this, etc. And he appeared to agree with Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib was talking about authorized use of military force. But everything is so stupid in our political discourse. So because some people are mad at Massie because he didn't endorse Trump, they're floating this theory that he is now, or floating this argument that Thomas Massie is defending Rashida Tlaib and agreeing and trying to defend terrorists, which is such a disingenuous hack job response. He's talking singularly about authorized use of military force. He is not defending her or defending the Houthis. And if people can't differentiate between that, they are literally precisely the problem that we have in American politics.